What's going on, guys? Saints and Sinners, the first anthology series from the Rippaverse. And so, what I'm going to do is just kind of sum up each and every story, give a little thing about it that I liked, maybe some things that I thought didn't really work for me, and then just move on to the next one. And at the end of it all, just kind of give an overall ranking as to where I felt these stories were as far as what appealed to me the most versus what I'm like okay with or didn't like at all. And so I'm just going to go in chronological order as far as what we're going to read. And so starting off, we have Chasing Ghosts. And this story is centered on Ingrid. She is sent to deal with some issues that the Florist Park police is having trouble with. And she's not exactly welcomed by all the members of the cops. Now, we did see in Alpha Corps that, yeah, some people aren't exactly thrilled of having some super cops, as they're usually referred to. They start to suspect Exceps being at the root of this issue, but after running into someone else who is kind of also following this, and I'm not going to spoil who that is, it's neither human nor Except. So it's not a regular person, it's not an Except, it's something else entirely. And that is where I'll leave it for right now. I do like seeing Alpha Corps members doing their own little side missions for, in this case, Ingrid. And I do like that it's Ingrid, being that she is the non-powered superhero. Those typically appeal to me the most. And I really like what we have there. The only thing I might criticize is just a slight bit of clunk in some of the dialogue. I just didn't... It came off just a touch clunky to me, but nothing too major. Just kind of nitpicky even as far as that is concerned. I overall like the idea of having this as a series, but I would just kind of more or less attach it to the Alpha Core series and then just maybe have an occasional one-shot is what I kind of feel that this would be best suited for. Next up, we have A Cross to Bear. This is a story about Cameron Cross. He wakes up not knowing who he is, how he got to where he is. So, an amnesia kind of story. And he picks a fight with some thugs that he sees mugging a woman. But then he also picks a fight with the police that come to also help deal with the situation. So he's going to fight everybody. The police take him out. They kind of stun him. He wakes up in a hospital, and we're starting to learn more about who and what he is. And I don't want to give away too much, so I'll leave it right there. I won't say that the story is exactly original. We've seen plenty of, people not knowing, having the amnesia story. But I will say the last couple pages of this really kind of intrigued me as far as what we're dealing with. And why Cameron would be drawn to a place that he's drawn to after we get more information on him. That I felt was a very interesting take on things. And again, I can't give too much away, so I'm just going to leave it right there. Nothing as far as criticisms really stood out to me. And I can at least say I would like to know more on this and therefore would like more of this story. So I'm really, I was really kind of drawn to that one, I gotta say. So next up we have The Weight of Restraint. We open up with a fight in a prison, but then we cut over to a government agency and see a man named Jackson Canehart finding some files that start putting him on like their government's radar. And he is able to get the name of somebody from a previously mentioned prison, and that is where I'll leave it for right now. The prison and this government agency, they are somehow tied, and we're going to find out later should this series continue. Now, this one didn't grab me quite as much as the others up to this point, to be quite honest. There were things that I liked about it, but overall, it was just kind of meh about it. I will say that some of the labelings of the buildings were fairly generic and just really didn't stand out in any kind of way. Simply just even changing the font size I felt would have done it a little bit better. I didn't, like I said, I didn't really have a strong like or dislike towards this one. I just kind of felt it was a little bit more on the mid side. I didn't really grab me. Okay, so up next we have Bone God. And this one is probably the one that intrigued me the most upon hearing what some of these stories were going to be about. Now, we follow a group of explorers led by Castor Graves as they look for treasure as well as just overall discovery. They make their way to the temple, and some odd things start to happen once they get inside, such as possible hallucinations. And I'm not entirely certain whether or not they were all real or fake, and I kind of like that. This causes friction within the team and results in some of the members being dismissed. We also get to see what was in the temple, and that is where I'll leave it for right now. Lots of good stuff in here. I guess some of the things that I found a little bit more difficult was there were parts of this that were a little harder for me to follow. I had to kind of reread it a couple times just to kind of make sure it made sense to me. It was just, like I said, a touch harder to follow. That's about as much as I can give it there. But I was very much captivated by this one, and that's why I wanted to make sure that I understood everything, because this one really pulled me in and had me very intrigued, and I really like the idea of just somebody, going out and exploring and dealing with possible curses and whatnot there. I would say that at this point in this book, this is the story that I like the most. Whether or not it stays that way by the end of it, we'll find out when I do my rankings. But yeah, I want more of this. This is good stuff. All right, so now we have the underdog. Our story is in the wrestling world, and we have Big Tuna, who is world champ, and someone that tends to hurt all of his opponents once they get into the ring. So they're having trouble, entertaining the audience at this point, because everybody's either getting hurt or doesn't want to step in the ring. So the higher-ups are a bit frantic to find somebody for a big event coming up, and so they have to kind of go out and scout some new talent. And they go into the minor leagues, and they give somebody a chance, and this is where we find Larry Shungite, who accepts the heel role to Tuna's babyface role, and that is where I'll leave it for right now. Now, I'm not much of a wrestling fan, but I did find myself enjoying this story quite a bit. And I will admit, it does have some familiarity with the Rocky series. We have the champ allowing a no-name to enter the ring for a championship match. The champ's also not taking the whole thing seriously. He's just kind of shrugging it off like, I'm top dog. This is some minor no-name. Who gives a shit? But I still find these stories fun no matter the outcome. So even though I was like, okay, I feel all the familiar beats here, I was still enjoying what I was reading. I like those kind of stories, underdog stories, if you would. I'm not sure if I would really want a regular series from it, but like a now and again kind of book with this, I could totally see myself wanting to grab every now and again. I just don't know if I would want this, like I said, as a more reoccurring thing. And finally, we have One Little Push. We follow a faceless and nameless man as he gives us a short monologue about who and what he is before we meet another man named Kane. Now, Kane has a meeting with Darren about killing a god. We then get to see some insight as to all the planning process and the setup, everything that it takes to do all of this. And when the time comes, we see that the nameless man is once again there, and we see the fallout of the actions of Kane, and that is where I'll leave it for right now. I very much enjoyed the dual perspective of these two. I'm very interested in learning more about the nameless protagonist, especially for what he is capable of doing. I don't want to give too much away, but you'll learn it pretty quick as to I mean, it's 15 pages, so you'll understand really quick what he is capable of and why I would be so intrigued. Um, I think that this would be a good series, especially if it's not dealing with such a major event like this one, but rather seeing like some of the smaller things that he alluded to. I could see this being a more regular series that I would gravitate towards, especially seeing that again his power set and what he can do. That's very interesting to me. So overall, I enjoyed these two varying degrees. Um, I think mid would be the worst case scenario as far as the stories I found in here. All the way up to pretty good and great, even. Things that really grabbed my attention. My rankings will be from things I enjoyed the most down to things I enjoyed the least. So, starting off, we have Bone God. The exploration element, I really enjoyed that, and definitely want more of that kind of story. You just don't, I don't read too many of those in comics at this point, especially more focused on the horror element. That's all things definitely for me. One Little Push, I found that to be, like I said, very intriguing for this nameless person's skill set and what they're able to do, and I would like to see more of like the minor little adjustments that he also does. I think that is very good. Next up is Chasing Ghosts at number 3. A story focused on Ingrid. I wouldn't mind seeing the other Alpha Core members having their own spin-off series as well by extension. So I like that idea of just the occasional one shot from all these other characters. The Underdog. Like I said, I don't think I could get a whole lot out of a regular series on this one, but every now and again, I would definitely pick up another issue and take a look, especially since this is something that doesn't really appeal to me in the real world, but I found this as a pretty enjoyable story. Across to Bear. Now, just because it's towards the bottom here doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. I I wanted to. I definitely want to see more of this character. That is for certain. It just as far as everything that stood out here, yeah, it was towards the bottom here. But I can't give too much away as to what was intriguing to me because I felt that was kind of a spoiler if I do. And then finally, at the end here is The Weight of Restraint. This is the one I felt was kind of mid. Uh, I just, there was nothing really there that stood out and grabbed my attention. But yeah, I didn't think it was bad. I just kind of was meh about it. So that is my rankings as far as what we have for Saints and Sinners. I definitely recommend checking out this anthology series and seeing what grabs your attention. And if this does sound like something that interests you, be sure to check the link in the description where you can get a copy for yourself, or at least 2 to follow should a second chance campaign arise. But that is all I have for today, guys. So until next time, take care and God bless.